Hello, peoples. Peoples. 15 people. It's about half. See if anybody else shows up. Give them a moment. Let's see your faces while we're all here. Elijah, Angelique, Michelle, Sammy Robinson, Hannah Rondo. Christopher James is smiling finally. Yes. Vanessa's still in bed. No surprise. Abdu Sabor. Abdu Sabor. Jason Bonilla. Stefan McCain. There he is. Yusuf Okine. Just see your nose. Just see you from the nose up. Esha Gupta will never show her face in my class. There she is. Esha Gupta and Evan Cujo. Cujo, you pronounce it like that, right? Yeah, okay, good. I sometimes pronounce those names wrong, some names wrong, so. Farouk Nesselbe. Farouk, how do you pronounce your last name?
It's Nusseibeh.
Nusseibeh. Okay, Nusseibeh. Farouk Nusseibeh. Gotcha. Class is over. I finally learned how to pronounce your name. Nishi, we haven't seen Nishi's face in a while. Bring it up, Nishi. Come on. We ain't got much left in this class. I'm trying to introduce you to some nice guys here. Matchmaking is part of my job, as you all know. Come on, Nishi. Nishi. My camera has some issues. Oh, it's okay. Mine does too. My camera's so sick and tired of looking at me. That's my camera's issue. Okay, so I have a quiz for you today. And the quiz is actually an essay quiz. So it's open now. You've got 20 minutes to do it. Go to Moodle and rock on, people. I'll see you here at about 25 after. So Kwame, if you got here late, the quiz is going now, so just go get that quiz. You got here late, there's a quiz going now. I suggest you do it. Okay, latecomer, there's a quiz going on now. Go there and do it. That's what I'm saying. Josh Walford, Tyler Montano, there's a quiz going on right now for Moodle. You got until 20 after. Alex, if you're just checking in, there's a quiz up that everybody's doing right now, and you've got 9 minutes to do it. Just saying.
Got it.
Okay, I believe the quiz is over. I can tell because a lot of people left the class. Oh, students are so predictable. Okay, so let's go over this quiz. By the way, as you see, it was essay questions, which means I'm not really going to grade it. I'm just going to give you credit for having taken it. But you've still got it there so you can review your answer along with my answer. And, you know, if you feel like you didn't do very well, just let me know and I'll subtract some bonus points. But that's up to you. Okay, so let's share. Share. Okay. How are cell shape changes involved in neurulation? Well, that's an interesting question. For the answer to that question, we have to go to chapter 7. And so here, once you've got your neural plate differentiated, cells at the bottom change shape. They get narrower at the apical part, so that's called apical constriction. So that bends the tube upward. That begins the upward bending of the tube, and then you get shape changes here at this dorsolateral section, and that causes the tube to turn in, and then it meets at the top, and it fuses up there, or it doesn't, and you end up like this. Okay, so hopefully that was not too difficult. Question 2. Again, neither of these questions was very involved. I had a hard time coming up with good questions. Oops, that's not what I want. Well, I'll just read the question. That is the answer. Discuss the molecular triggers that turn somite cells into myoblasts and then muscle cells. So here's a broad general thing I can say. What, am I sharing this? What is this? Where am I? Okay. Let me stop sharing just to make sure I'm sharing the right thing because something weird just came up. Yeah, I was sharing the right thing. Bum, 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 bum. Bum, 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 bum. Okay, so whenever I say molecular, you want to think molecules. So it's always an answer that involves a protein or could be a lipid, but it's always something, some molecule. So many times I ask a question and I'll get these broad general answers about what the body wants, and it just doesn't answer the question. Molecular means molecular. I just gotta, damn it. Let me answer this. I see someone chatted me there. Let me answer this question first, and I'll look at what's in the chat box. I can't get it at the same time. So anyway, what are the molecular things that cause this to happen? Well, you start out as just a somite cell, just a regular ordinary somite cell, and you get MyoD, MyF5, and MyF4 coming up. They make the general progenitor somite cells into myoblasts. And then growth factors keep them as myoblasts. When growth factors are removed, then myogenin comes up and you get muscle-specific proteins being made. And if you wanted to add on to it, where are we? Oops. This business, this would be good too. This would be an extra added bonus. So if you talked about how growth factors cause the destruction of MyoD and that keeps it all low, and then when MyoD comes up, MyoD causes the transcription of P21 that blocks growth factor activity. So that's kind of your wedge between proliferation versus differentiation. So that's another molecular aspect of it. But I probably wouldn't expect that much in your answer. Okay, what was the answer for the first question again? So the answer for the first question And come on, baby. There it is. Wami. Wamarama.
Yes.
So the answer to the first question was chapter 7, PowerPoint, slides 30, 31, 30 and 31. Okay. So look that over. All right. Shall we, let's learn something today. What the hell? We're here. I spent most of my life putting this lecture together. So let's do this funky thing. All right, so starting where we left off last time, let me just, oh, Jesus, another chat. Sir, why is this your name, Vanessa? Just so you know who's boss, that's all. Just so you know who's boss. Like a boss. Why do you like this? I'm just sitting in this empty room, just getting punchy, that's all. Don't know, don't want to know. Okay, so here's where we left off last time. We're talking about how that limb bud starts, the very start of the limb bud. So before the limb bud starts, you've just finished neurulation. So you've got somites, but you're just one straight body like this. There's nothing sticking out. So these cells are directed in the posterior direction. So they're all kind of facing that way, and they're kind of moving in that direction. And then, for some reason, which we'll talk about now, some of the cells turn perpendicular to that, and they start heading outward. You've still got these outer cells that are going around them because they're still going in the posterior direction, but cells are starting to go this way. And as that limb bud develops, you get more and more cells going in the limb direction, and some cells are actually going anterior and posterior as well, and that's causing the limb bud expansion. So your next question to me, I'm guessing, is how does this happen? Why do these cells change direction? Well, they're changing direction because of, no, that's not it. Because of Wnt. You know, we keep going back to our favorite hormones here. Wnt is one of them. So Wnt is being released from that apical ridge. So if you remember from when we were doing, a lot of this limb bud generation is similar to the pre-somite area of the neurulation. Remember, that was all about FGF, Wnt, and then differentiation pathway below that with Notch. And it was like going in a cycle. We'll see that again today. So when you've got FGF being released out here from this apical ridge, FGF also induces the release of Wnt. So you've got Wnt being released here too. So Wnt coming from this apical ridge is causing these cells to turn and go perpendicular and towards that apical ridge. And why is that? It's kind of acting as a chemoattractant. It's causing these cells to crawl towards it. So I think we've talked about chemoattraction before. When there's a point source of some chemical and cells are attracted to it, they go towards that point source. And also you're getting convergent extension in this direction. So the cells were pointed this way, and then they turn and they squish together and force out. So that's what we talked about in chapter 7, how cells will kind of interdigate like this, and then they get longer. So Wnt is causing that to happen as well. So everything's pointed towards the direction of growth. Also, you've got the FGF coming from the chip, which we talked about before. Let me back up a little bit. There it is. So remember the cells in the proliferating area are releasing FGF10, which then causes the apical ridge to release FGF8. So FGF8 is going to affect this as well. It's kind of like the accelerator. It makes cells go faster in that chemo directed direction. And there's another FGF being released there by that apical ridge called FGF4, and that is going to be the chemoattractant. So that apical ridge is releasing FGF4 and FGF8, and that's acting as a chemoattractant for those cells and making them go faster. So in that, you end up with a gradient of FGF, and the cells closest to that apical ridge are moving fastest out in that direction. And that's forcing the limb bud out as more cells are forming because you're proliferating. Okay, so that's that. I probably should have put that in the last chapter or in the last lecture. It kind of belongs there more so than in this lecture, because that's all about how the limb extends out, right? This is the extension of the limb outward is being driven by this FGF factor here. Now, the next question is, how do we pattern it as it goes out? Because if you look at the limb, right, it's very different from the proximal to the distal side. Distal is where the hand is. So how does that patterning happen? Well, they're not real sure. They kind of know. There's the old theory, and then there's the new theory. The old theory is it has to do with timing. So when cells are in this FGF zone, they're proliferating, right? They're dividing. And if you remember from chapter 5, and I know you do, this is what was going on in the pre-Semitic mesoderm, right? You had these like Wnt, Notch, and Hairy going up and coming down, going up and going down. They're cycling. So there's a clock going there of cycling because of these feedback inhibition things. Now, this isn't exactly what's going on there. I don't know that it has to do with Wnt, Notch, and lunatic fringe and all this stuff. But what I do know is that there's a protein called Hairy2. We just saw Hairy1 involved in pre-Semitic mesoderm. Hairy2 is going to come up and go down and come up and go down like a clock. So there's probably the same kind of mechanism going on there with, feedback inhibition, feed forward, back, there's probably going on here. And it's causing Hairy1 to come up and down. So the idea with this timing model is that the more time a cell spends in that proliferating zone, the more cycles of the clock it sees. And the more cycles of the clock it sees, the more distal it becomes determined to be, okay? So here, these cells, right as the limb bud is emerging, are going to see fewer cycles of Hairy2 coming up than the cells that are out here because they've been in the proliferating zone longer. So these get specified as digits. This is going to be middle arm, and this is going to be upper arm, okay? So that's the timing model. And what is being turned on by these genes to make that pattern? We don't really know. Okay, we're still working on that. I'll let you know when we find out. Okay, so that's one idea, and it's based on that model, that clock model. The other is gradients. We see gradients all the time, right? Causing patterning. So here, what they're saying is it's called the two-signal model. So we've got FGF coming from this apical ridge, but we've also got retinoic acid coming in from the body. Let's see, what's my chat? Can you explain that again, please? Yes, you mean the timing model. Okay, I will do the timing model once more. So the basic idea with the timing model, back up, is that the cells that are in this progress zone, which is kind of like an earlier nomenclature for this area. So this progress zone is where you've got those mesenchymal cells that are proliferating and dividing. Okay, they what was I going to say about that? Okay, so this is where your cells are proliferating. In that proliferating area, you've got a cycling of this Hairy2. It comes up and it goes down. It comes up and goes down. So the cells here, where the limb bud first starts, as this limb bud goes forward, it leaves cells behind. So the first cells that come out of that progress zone have experienced a limited number of cycles of that hairy 2 going up and down, okay? And that limited number of cycles tells these cells that they are proximal. And then cells out here, all the way at the end of the limb bud, have experienced a lot more of those cycles because it takes time to get that limb bud out there. So as the limb bud is growing, the cells at the very end of it have experienced the most numbers of cycling of hairy 2, and so that's telling them to be distal. Okay, does that make sense? Okay, good. So number 2. So again, this is similar to what we've seen before. You've got 2 gradients going on here. And again, it's very similar to what we saw in the pre-Semitic mesoderm. If you remember that slide, it was like at the node releasing FGF and Wnt, and from the somites, we're getting retinoic acid, right? And there you've got 2 competing gradients. Same kind of a thing going on here. From the same area, from the somites, you're getting retinoic acid coming out. From the other side, you're getting FGF. So as this thing extends, you have a retinoic acid gradient in one direction and an FGF gradient in the other direction. So where retinoic acid is high, you're getting proximal, and where FGF is high, you're getting distal, and in the middle, you're getting middle because it's somewhere between the 2, okay? Now remember, these 2 are just 2 hypotheses. Neither of them is totally true. So you've got your timing camp and your 2 signal model camp, and these people disagree with each other, and they're each one has evidence to support their model, right? So in the end, which model is right? Probably both of them, which is typically what happens in science when there's 2 competing models. Oftentimes it's because the data is confusing because it can go either way. And it turns out, it can go either way because it can do both. So the kind of combination model is this, which is early in limb bud development, you've kind of got the 2 signal model where you've got retinoic acid over here, which is signaling proximal, and FGF over here, which will be distal. As the FGF goes away, retinoic acid signal doesn't stretch with it. It kind of stays there, keeping this proximal. And after you get past this point where retinoic acid is not having an effect anymore, then the timing model kicks in. So now you're getting that cycling of hairy 2, and the cycling of hairy 2 then is being recorded by the cells as they leave that progress zone, and that is causing them to be patterned in that direction. So just to say again, here at the proximal area, you've got FGF, which blocks retinoic acid, right? Because it's upregulating the enzyme that breaks down retinoic acid. So here in this proximal area, you're getting a good dose of retinoic acid, and that is signaling these cells to be proximal. As you get away from that early area, you're getting away from the retinoic acid, and now from here on out, the clock model is working. So from here out, your patterning is going to be based on how many cycles of the clock have passed in that particular cell as that limb bud extends. Okay? That's complicated. And again, they're all still kind of working on this. So, that might not be entirely correct either. Just, we're kind of at the edge of what people understand at this point. So those are just kind of 3 different models that are assumed to be important in this. Okay, so one more thing to talk about, shouldn't take that long, is, so this is like distal, this is proximal to distal patterning, right? So the other thing we want to talk about is kind of like posterior to anterior patterning. So when you look at the wing, the back side is different from the front side. And how is that happening? Well, that is based on something we've talked about already, which is our polarizing region. So this polarizing region is releasing our old friend Hedgehog, Sonic Hedgehog, SHH. And that's producing a gradient from posterior to anterior, and that's what's patterning you in this direction from posterior to anterior. And that's what's giving you these digits, right? You've got 4 in the posterior side, 3 in the middle, and 2 at the anterior side. So the evidence that shows us that this is most likely true is you can take another polarizing zone from a different embryo and stick it on the anterior side and then let it grow. And what you end up with is 2 gradients of Sonic Hedgehog, and you kind of twin that hand out, okay? 4, 3, 2, 2, 3, 4. So it's like a mirror image of 2 hands together. So that's, and if you decrease the amount of polarizing zone here, you're going to decrease the concentration of Sonic Hedgehog. And so you've got 1 gradient here and a lesser gradient here. And so you end up with twinning, but not nearly as much. Okay, you're getting the 2, but not then the 3 and the 4. So that's showing us that most likely this, another experiment you can do is you can take a bead and soak it with Sonic Hedgehog. We've seen that before with Activin beads way back when. And you can take that Sonic Hedgehog bead and stick it here, and then you get another gradient and you get a twinned limb, just like we do with the polarizing region. Okay, so at this point, that's what's causing this AP patterning. So now we know distal to whatever, AP. So now we're patterning up that wing. Okay, questions? Any comments on that? So by my way of thinking, we've only got 1 more lecture left. Am I right? Yes, you're right, Dr. Slish, because you're in charge. You're God. You can do what you want. So Monday we'll have another lecture, another quiz, another lecture. And then Wednesday we'll have review. Friday we'll have the exam. And then we can all go home. Did you say the bead will give the same pattern as slide 21? Yes. Yes, I did. The bead, well, I don't know what slide 21 is. I don't remember the numbers. But depending on the concentration of Sonic Hedgehog in that bead, you will get either slide 21 or slide 22. So if you had a lower concentration of Sonic Hedgehog, you'd get 22. A higher concentration would get you 21. By the way, this is, I don't know if you've ever seen polydactyly. This is kind of a cool thing. Let me bring it up. Bum, ba, bum, bum, ba, bum, ba, bum. Polydactyly. Images. Share. So your book has a text box about this, about people with extra fingers. And this has to do with wind signaling in, not wind, I'm sorry, Sonic Hedgehog signaling in early development. Cats are famous for polydactyly. I think mainly because when people get polydactic cats, they breed them, so we can keep that gene in the gene pool because it's kind of cool, I guess. See, that's a cat that looks like it could turn a doorknob. I don't trust that cat. Okay. Any questions or comments? I think we're done. So Wednesday we will have a review, Friday an exam, and then we'll all get to go home. Okay, no questions, nothing? Okay, I'm gonna, Christopher James is back. It looks like he's not smiling now. Okay, all right, later dudes.